Lorian, and this is episode 12 of the Knitting On YouTube channel. Today is Tuesday, July the 30th, and gosh, summer is flying by. I have the summers off from work because I work in a public school, but I have to go back in just a few weeks, and so I have spent a lot of time knitting since I spoke with you last. If you're new here, thanks for checking things out. If you are coming back, thanks for returning. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. It does help YouTube show this content to other people who may like enjoying, whether you're a knitter or not. I know I have some people who watch who are not knitters and just enjoy catching up. I appreciate all of you being here. So without further ado, I am wearing the Tolsta tank. This is a pattern by Clow. It is a full length. I did it even a little bit longer. Oh, there's the edge for me. Tank top. I knit. It's an amazing pattern. It comes with, I believe, 3 different necklines, multiple cup sizes. So I did a fairly fitted version here. As you can see, these are bust darts. And I knit it to size. I did not knit with any extra ease because I knew I would want it fitted. I lengthened the body maybe about an inch from the pattern, and I didn't even block it. It's wearing so beautifully. So the yarn that I used is from Terrapin Fiberworks, and it is the Severin DK, which is a plant-based fiber. It's 100% tensile. It's also naturally dyed or dyed using natural dyes. I want one in black, I want one in bright white, I want one in navy. I absolutely love how this came out. I find it super easy to wear. It is a little bit sheer in this fiber because it's the tensile. It's a little more compressed. This is the colorway Garlic. I just wanted to give this business a try and ordered this yarn at the end of last summer. The pattern is really, really beautifully written and gives you a lot of options for one pattern. I have not yet, there's also a Tolsta tee. I have that pattern, I have not knit it. I do have plans, I do have ideas and thoughts, maybe not this year, to knit a few more of them, but I would love to have a few more in my wardrobe just like this. Really, really can't say enough about it. And I find that I feel like it's a beginner-friendly pattern. Most of it is stockinette. It's a bottom-up design. Don't let that scare you. Just take some measurements. Measure using a t-shirt or another sweater that you like the body length of, and go from there. Okay, I have a couple of other sweaters that I have finished. So without further ado, I have 2 of the same sweater. This does not happen often. I usually do not knit a pattern more than once just because there's so many patterns to try, but I couldn't decide which color combination I like the best, and so I knit 2. So this is the Rumbel Raglan. It is a t-shirt, a Raglan t-shirt. This pattern is designed by Lyida Morrow, and just a note, I need to have a weaving party. Other than this, Tolsta, nothing that I have finished this summer, which I consider finished when it's pretty much off the needles and blocked. I need to have an end weaving party. I have worn this in public, so I've woven in the ends, but because this is double thickness of fingering, it's fingering weight yarn, but it's double thickness, it's not really a summer garment for me. So it is by Lyida Morrow, and I used 4 colors in this version. I knit a combination of sizes. So I knit the 5th size for the stitch count that I needed for the body and to get to at the bust, but I needed to get there faster than that particular size called for. If you take a look at the pattern itself, the shape of the body shaping is supposed to be very fitted, and I didn't want that much fitting or close them. I didn't want that much negative ease in my garment. This one is a little blousier. I think it has to do with the composition of the yarns that I used compared to the second one. So let me show you the yarns. But get to the yarns and then I'll talk a little bit more. So these two colors, the gold and this white with some flecks in it, or like cream, are from Explore. You're gonna see quite a bit of, Explore Knits and Fibers. This is Denali Sock. It's an 80/20. The reddish color, all right, well, we might as well say this here. Mustard and Mayo. Ketchup. The reddish color is Rouge, 75/25. This is by Suburban Stitcher. I have had this yarn for such a while and never figured out what to knit it in. I'm so glad I used it. And this one is from Madeline Tosh. It is TML and Glitter. Relish. So I have actually called this my condiment sweater. Ketchup, mustard, mayo, and relish. So this one, I think it's a one-of-a-kind color. It's a lot of olivey, pickly colors. It is 90% superwash and 8% acrylic and 2% stellina. So I have two that are, what are they, 80/20, the Denali, 80/20, one 75/25, and one mostly wool in this set. I did not do any decreases on the sleeves. The sleeves end up in the original pattern are tapered. I also did a 2-stitch I-cord on all of the edges. So I did that on the collar, which it is a top-down design. I cast on the number of stitches, but didn't knit the collar until the end. I did a similar 2-stitch I-cord at the edge of the sleeves and at the body here. I originally did a bigger I-cord and I used the same needle, which is a size 5 that I knit this on. In the bottom I-cord, blocked it, and the I-cord was just looking too sloppy. So I went back, picked it all out, and redid the I-cord with just 2 stitches on a size 2 needle versus the size 5, which is the body. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of wear out of this sweater. And so I'm sure I'll weave in the ends either on a rainy day or watching a football game in the fall. But again, because it's double thickness, it really, for me, is not a summer sweater. The second one that I did was with 3 different colors and came out a little bit more fitted, didn't block out as wide. So here's the second one. I pretty much did exactly the same spec, other than in my first one, each column of combined colors is 12 stitches. In this one, it's 14. So this is the 3-color version. I think the sleeves I knit a little bit shorter also, just based on where my color rows of combos blocked. So the yarns, again, I was really excited to find a place to put this as a yarn I've wanted to use for a while from Momma Jess Knits. It is a 75/25. It's a very, very light blue with brown and gold specks in it. It is a 75/25 called The Light Shines On. It is by Speckled Finch Studios. And then this was a mystery skein, to be honest, and I'm a little surprised about this one. It's a single, actually. And it had both of those colors worked into it and a whole bunch of other colors. And I think it just pulled everything together. Let's see. There we go. Again, I did the same thing. I solved for the body stitch count, the body stitch count that I needed for the bust, which I think was around, for me, 400 stitches. And then I looked at the size that had the 400 stitches at the yoke depth of the size that I needed. So the second size had the yoke depth I needed. The size I wanted to get to for the body was the size 5, but I used a size 8 to tell me how many increases to do in this raglan. I love this, like, double stitched. I think it's 2 stitches. No, it looks like it's even more. it's 4. I think it's 4 stitches in between in the raglan. So it's really quite defined. Super happy with them. And I think because the color changes, they do look a bit different from one another. So very fun knits. Glad to have those in my wardrobe. All right. I went to London this past February with my husband on a vacation, and I visited a couple of yarn stores. One day he had to go into his office in London, and I took that opportunity to visit some of London's yarn shops and to have tea with a friend. So I visited Loop London, which for me, I bought a skein of yarn there and a beautiful silk scarf. That's in one of my earlier videos. I also went to Beautiful Knitters, which is in the Westminster neighborhood, which was very close by to where we were staying. And I bought some souvenir yarn. And for myself, I bought a skein of by Luxton Sheep Soft DK, which is 100% British wool. And it's made in Yorkshire, UK. And I believe, okay, so it's spun by Luxton's from fleece to finish yarn in less than 50 miles. So it's very much also about just keeping a very narrow or small carbon footprint. It's a DK weight yarn. It's very, very dark navy. And while I was there, they told me, oh, showed me an Oslo hat, which I had not knit from, it's designed by Petite Knit. And oh, the put up on this is 225 meters. So this is a little bit smaller. I had to knit the folded brim about an inch or so smaller than the pattern itself calls for. But it has plenty of room. It has this really nice crown. And it's for my husband. He's very happy with it. He likes a folded brim. Nobody is wearing hats right now where we are, but I think it'll get quite a bit of use this winter season. So very happy. I actually wrote to them because I remembered them suggesting the pattern, but when I looked at the yardage, I needed more yarns than one skein called for. So I wrote to them just to make sure I had the pattern right and to confirm how they suggested to knit it using shorter yardage, and they were lovely. I just wrote to them on Instagram. So it's a beautiful store, lots of European British wools. So I'm really glad that Todd will have that souvenir. Okay, I think that's it. Those are my 4 finishes. So moving on, I pretty much cast on a whole bunch of new things. So let's start with this one, which is a gift knit. So I did knit one of these earlier this spring. This is the bottom and up of the Tiny Ribbon Baby Dress by Astrid Sivertsen. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. It is only one size, so it's only designed for a 3 to 6 month old size. It's written in DK, and you knit it bottom up, edge of the skirt up, the dress up, and I'm pretty close to dividing for the front and the back on this pattern. I am using yarn, this gorgeous purple by PlayfulDay Yarns. Terrapin is a sweet friend of mine, and she did a whole spectrum of colors of hydrangea. And I believe this is from there. To be honest, they were mystery skeins, and I happened to receive 2 of them. So you really can't, I always say, can't go wrong with anything from Terrapin. She has a beautiful color sense. This is knit on a size 4 needle. And it uses this ribbon, uses a Japanese stitch pattern. I have knit this quite a few times in addition to these 2. I just think it's very, very sweet. It does have one shoulder with buttons, the pattern calls for, and one that you seam. I'm gonna seam them both. I feel like the neck head opening is stretchy enough, and I feel like buttons are just a little bit fiddly for for this pattern. Like it's fine. I can completely appreciate needing buttons. My son had a huge head, so that made dressing him a lot easier when things had buttons, but I think this is gonna be fun. I feel like it has enough stretch that way, and I actually find putting buttons on, like not just sewing them, but just picking them out, I find it hard to find like great buttons for things. So this should be finished. I have a baby Sprinkle, because this is the mom's second baby. There's first baby is a little boy. I have a Sprinkle midway through August. So a Sprinkle, for those of you who don't know, is like a baby shower, but when you have a second, it's a little more low-key, I guess. It's just a sprinkle, a spritz. I don't know. I haven't gone to too many of them. So we'll see. But it's for the daughter of a very dear friend. Okay, that's one thing that's in the works. I am also working on this. So I'm gonna actually pop it over my head. So this was my third fingering weight summer sweater. I tend to prefer, I don't love knitting fingering weight sweaters, although I will say those Rumbel Raglans flew off the needles. But I tend to knit them in summer when I just have more patience, and I don't often want a heavier weight garment in my hands, on my lap, working up. So I had this design in mind to use with my Advent mini skeins, or just any mini skeins that I had started to collect. And keep in mind, this is going to block out a bit further. So this is called Ferdaganser. It's a pattern by Anna and Heidi Pickles, or Pickles Knitting. It is a fingering weight colorwork sweater. I believe their initial design is in 3 colors. I decided this would be a great way to use up my mini skeins after I saw Laurel of the Knit All the Things podcast had used her mini skeins to knit a version for herself. I laid out all of the mini skeins that I had, which really were the whole spectrum of colors, and decided I was not going to wear this if it was a rainbow. I initially considered like the greens, oranges, yellows, and also thought too bright. I took out the reds first, and then I took out the blues, and I just didn't love then like the purples and the oranges. So now I've pretty much narrowed it down to blues, purples, and pinks. I think it's tending to be very heavy in the purples so far. But there are more blues, and I feel like things look purple, and some people might think they're pink, and some people might think they're purple. Anyway, it's reading that way so far for me, but I am very much enjoying it. It has a folded collar. It is a Norwegian, I believe, design, and is written initially in that. It's also in English. I am either going to knit the size 2 or 3. Fortunately, I don't have to decide that until I just work my raglan down. I'm going to decide based on, I either need 8 or 9 repeats. If 8 looks good, I won't be doing another. There is a chance I'll do a mid-project block just to make that decision for me, because I'm not really sure how much this will grow as I work on it. The collar is knit in a size 2. I did a provisional cast on using a waist yarn and a cable cast on that I picked out and then knit together as I folded it over. It has a purl row at the fold and short rows in the back. I really do prefer that my sweaters have short rows to build up the back of the neck. Without a doubt, this is going to be one of the more colorful sweaters for me. It is designed with long sleeves, and my current plan is to knit it as long as I have the yardage with my minis. I have, I think, 26 minis. I think it's 13 pairs, and so this would be 1, 2, 3. This is my 4th pair so far. I feel pretty good about that yardage. We'll just have to see how it works out. I really don't have much of this left, which is understandable. I'm thinking about this when I get to knitting the sleeves, knitting them separately but onto small circumference needles more or less at the same time. So keeping 2 different small circumference needles going, using the 2-inch and the 3-inch tips on each with a cord in between the tips on each, and so that I can kind of see how it's going. I guess it doesn't really matter as long as I keep track of which yarns go where. I think I can do it in a way that makes the sleeves line up. We'll see. That may depend if I end up going with the size 2 or the size 3. Both of them should be fine based on the spec. One will just have a lot more blousiness for me, which I have to decide if that's something I want. I'm actually having a lot of fun knitting this, I must say. I didn't think I'd have as much fun as I am. I'm winding my minis as I go. These are the next 2 colors. I also wound 2 after. So, so far so good. The color work, I think, is also what's sort of propelling me forward with this pattern. And truthfully, Laurel has been fantastic. I asked her a couple of questions, like how she did her colors and what size she did, and she's super responsive. I feel like we're friends, even though we've never met. Okay. So stay tuned for more of this, for sure. And then I am also working on a third work in progress, which is just beyond the waistline. It's a bottom up design, and I'm just starting the cables here. So it's really not much to see yet, but boy, is this yarn spectacular. This yarn is from Renninger Wool Co. It is the Winnie Woolly Buns? What does she call it? Yeah, Winnie Woolly Buns DK. It is from the 2024 season. Here's some other, this is the farm. And here's another picture of Winnie when she was younger. And if you have never knit with Jenny Renninger is her farm. If you have never knit with her yarn, run to her website and grab some, because there is not a lot. She has a small flock, and this is quite possibly some of the softest farm yarn I have ever knit. Now, I have pet the sheep as well because I have visited this farm, and they're just as soft. I mean, it is spectacular. So as it happens, Jenny and I both wanted to knit this, and we are working on our vests concurrently. This is going to be the Oban vest, which is a pattern by Thea Colman. I have knit the cardigan, I have knit the hat, and I knit my own version, took the cable motif and knit a version that I turned into a cowl. So more on this to come. The only thing, I will knit this to pattern. The only thing I will probably change is I might add an inch or so to the body of the sweater. This is just a very special knit, very dear friend. Okay, let's see. I'm just looking around me to make sure I haven't missed anything, because truth be told, my whole counter is covered with goodness. All right, I think we've gotten to everything. So new stuff. My family and I took a 5-night vacation up the Connecticut coast. We live in Connecticut, and it was very relaxing. We were right on the water. We had hot weather. We had beautiful weather. We just laid low. We stayed at the house. We walked around a couple of cute New England towns. Went out for dinners. Did not have to do much cooking. It was very relaxing. One of the shops had these in them. Little turtle, tape measure. You pull the tail out. So of course I had to make that purchase. It has a little hook here that you can hang it on. It's a crocheted turtle tape measure. I don't remember the name of the store, I'm sorry. Okay, I also had the opportunity this past weekend to visit Forever Yarn Doylestown with my friend Debbie. Debbie and I have done some road trips together. I think we have another one planned to hit Rhode Island in August. And Forever Yarn Doylestown, I'd never been, is a beautiful shop in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. It's about a 2.5-hour drive from where we are. Debbie was up for driving. I was up for co-piloting and helping in any way possible. And there were several vendors. They had like a pop-up, a summer makers event, and I ended up making a couple of purchases. So one of my purchases is this absolutely precious box, mini box bag. I don't know exactly what Sheila calls them. It has a clip, so it can clip right onto your project bag here. Cute zipper, and opens, and you can get, I love that it's somewhat see-through. You can kind of see what's inside. This is by Black Pearl Magic. So I got one, and as a thank you, I got one for Deb too. Hers was pink. So I have to fill this up. And the other 3 vendors there were, let's see, Chelsea Yarns was there, Cake Wool was there, and now I have to look it up. So while I look, I ended up, let me see. Here we go. Oh, Fashion School Dropout. Right, 3 yarn dyers, indie dyers were there. And of course, the yarn in the store was on sale as well. She has quite a lot of beautiful yarn. She also carries quite a lot of La Bien-Aimée. I have never knit with Cake Wool. Okay, do these look, right there, they look similar. And Alyssa, who is the dyer behind Cake Wool, had this new base. It is called Glaze, 50% baby alpaca, 25% silk, 25% linen. She calls it a heavy fingering, but 273 yards. It's almost closer to a sport, I think. She had a sample knit up. I'm gonna try to knit this once again. To me, this looks silvery, and sometimes this one looks darker, so this one looks lighter, but very excited. I think it was only one batch. I bought these 2, and it's definitely gonna be a Tolsta tank. We visited also Twisted Knitting and Spinning. It was a lovely store. It was only 15 minutes north of Doylestown, or Twist. I think it was Twist Knitting and Spinning. Some fabulous, carried lots of great yarns. I didn't make a purchase there. Deb did. We also tried to go to a third store, but they had closed about 30 minutes before we got there. Last but not least, acquisition-wise, I have admired this color since it came out during, I think, the initial, it was part of an ice cream collection. It's by Explorer Knits and Fibers. This color is called Freezy Pop, and they did an in-stock update, and they had the Surrey. They had so many, I want to say like 80. I thought my chances would be pretty good. I ended up getting a sweater's quantity of this Surrey, and I grabbed the 2 skeins left of this Denali sock, which is the same base that I used in my Rumbel Raglan. I have 2 skeins of this, 4 of this. I cannot wait to use this. It's called Freezy Pop. I've been obsessing about this color for quite some time. So was really feeling happy to finally grab it. My poodle wants to come inside. I'm gonna step 2 steps away, keep talking, and let him in. Okay, I'm back. All right, there are a couple of other things I thought I would touch on. So the first is thoughts on the framed sweater. So every year, I think this is the 7th year, Andrea Mowry has come out with a design for Rhinebeck called the Rhinebeck sweater. You can wear whatever you want to Rhinebeck. Rhinebeck is fun because you see people wearing what you're wearing. You see people wearing things you now want to make and you've added to your list. You see things you say, wow, I wouldn't wear that, but that's super cool. You see everything. I won't be going to Rhinebeck. I have a family event that weekend in the opposite direction. But I really didn't plan on knitting this Rhinebeck sweater. It's beautiful. It's designed in worsted weight yarn. And my thoughts on knitting it, well, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I have knit several years of them, but not all. I knit last year's as a vest that was called Tessellated. And I knit maybe the first year, the Throwback, which was a cardigan. This year's is worsted weight. It is color work. It is stranded all over, which means it's going to be a very heavy sweater, very thick, very warm. Nearly all of the samples used yarns that are in partnership with Andrea, and they are beautiful, but some of them are very expensive. And Andrea has thankfully put out some other suggestions of yarns to use that run the gamut for budget. When it initially came out, I really didn't see many of those budget-friendly yarns that the testers had used. So I wasn't really running to knit it, but I think it's very hard. I actually have a different episode on FOMO and trying not to knit something just because you see it and it looks pretty, but is it something you'll use? Is it something you'll wear? To be honest, I have thought very hard about this. If I were to knit it, I would use this yarn, which is Patton's Classic Wool Worsted. This is available at the big box stores. I have nothing against hand-dyed yarns, indie dyers, anything like that, or small shops. I'm happy to support them. These are the two colors I would use. This is blowing out here quite a bit. There. I might use the black also to frame it, but I think that's too strong, so I might do a two-color version. This sells for like $6 or $7 a skein. It is all wool. It is a put up of 194 yards. So it's worsted, although it sort of says Aran on it, but I would knit it in these two colors. And Michael's is a big box store near me. They sell this yarn. I have had this in the yarn in my cart. I've always wanted to knit a sweater in it. I think I really would wear this. They also have a red, I consider. They have lots of colors. And I think this would be really pretty. I still don't know if I would wear a fully stranded worsted weight sweater. I probably wouldn't wear a jacket with it. But I am finding it kind of tempting because I've always wanted to knit a sweater in these yarns here. It's a little less blown out. I think it would be soft. It would be pretty. There is somebody now knitting it in these yarns. I think this is just called gray. It just says Aran, and this says black. So I obviously don't have them on the right, the ball bands on the right colors. I've had it in my cart. I could knit this for under $50. So it is very tempting. There are versions that are over 400. And I think this would be spectacular. And part of me wants to knit it just to prove that it could be done and look great in more budget-friendly yarns also. But I sort of have been putting it through the filter of would I want to knit that more than what I have left to knit this year, sweater-wise. So that's the second part that's the end part of today's episode is what does Lorianne have left to knit this year of sweaters beyond what I'm showing you now. So I have 8 more sweaters and 5 more months if I consider August through December. I would like to knit the Stripy Unicorn by Joji Locatelli. Joji, I believe, is going to do her fall knit along, and I plan to do that when that gets started. There is a pattern called Smoldering Embers. That is by Deborah Gerard. That is a sport weight colorwork sweater with a color changing yarn in the yoke. I plan to knit that. I plan to use also some Surrey from my friend Susie of Fiber MacGyver, and I have a skein of that which would work perfectly with that combo. These are all sweaters I already have the yarn for also. The Leith Cardigan by Rebecca Clow. I'm really feeling very favorable on her as a designer. I have some leftover yarns this is a striped cardigan that I believe I don't have a full sweaters quantity in any color, but I have about 4 or 5 colors of yarn of weekend wool from Green Mountain Spinnery that would work up in my mind into this Leith cardigan. Montrose is a pattern by Sophie Maeve. I think Montrose is her last name, and I believe it's her first pattern. It is a colorwork sweater, sport weight, and I have some beautiful deep red and a camel color yarn. And the stranding is carried on the front of the sweater. That's part of the design. I have never knit a sweater that does that, so that would be fun and new to me. I have some Noro Ito that I plan to knit into a cardigan. I was either going to do the Wave of Change jacket, but I think I might just do my own freestyle basic cardigan and knit the sleeves the same way I did the pullover in Noro Ito, which is I knit the sleeves together in one big tube so that the striping, because it is striping, the striping matches up with, in thickness with the body. I also have worsted weight yarn for a cardigan. I bought this yarn at Fiber Festival of New England. I thought I was going to make one pattern. It turned out to not be as next to Skin Soft as I wanted for that design. And had I been going to Rhinebeck, this is what I would use for my own Rhinebeck sweater. It's going to be a yoked cardigan, mostly in a dark gray. I have a skein of a cream and I have some beautiful dark red, and that will be like a color band of some color work in those two colors. The rest will be gray, probably with buttons, probably just a round collar. I have more to think about in planning that one. Chiaroscuro. That's a pattern by Carol Sunday. I have knit one of her designs before. I think she's brilliant. My friend Shannon of Whiskey and Wool has knit this design and had to put it on my list. I have the yarn for it already. It's a sport weight sweater. It does use some solid, some color changing yarn. It's going to be kind of a fun mix and match of the different yarns that I've compiled for that project. And then the 8th, is a striped DK weight sweater, which I spoke about in episode 11. I have some superwash DK from Nice and Knit that I got in a D-stash. I am going to use the stitch count from the Thereafter cardigan, which is a no button cardigan by Alicia Plummer. It has a beautiful lace motif down the center of the back and some texture on I think it's on the collar band and on the cuffs. I'm probably gonna leave that off. I've knit the Thereafter and I love that sweater, but it's a DK weight. It has the stitch counts that I would need. I believe it's a raglan shaped cardigan. So that is 8 more sweaters. So I am not sure that I have room in my plans for framed. I am thinking about it. I have the pattern. Now that I see those yarns, I'm probably even a little more tempted to pick them up and have that option. But I really am, when I put that through the filter of would I rather knit that compared to the other things on my list, the answer has pretty much been no, like I said, until I saw all of those yarns. I may add the second Tolsta tank to my list. I feel a little bit of ahead of what I had thought I would knit in August. I have a second baby gift also that I have the yarn pulled out for and have simply cast on, so I'm not showing it today. I think it's gonna knit very quickly. It's for like a 2 to 4 month size, so it's gonna be very small. I had some hats and scarves, but really most of the knitting is sweaters. So I feel pretty good about where I am with what I've completed this year. It does sound like 8 sweaters in 5 months does sound like quite a lot. Half of those are sport weight. Let's see, 2 are worsted, 1 is DK, maybe 3 are worsted. 1 is Aran, or like a bulky weight. So I don't know. I feel pretty good about what I have left to do. So there is a possibility that I'll throw a framed in there, but it would be a 2-color framed. Now that I'm even looking at the yarns, it would really just be these 2 colors. And I can also just buy the yarn and decide, but I think that would be pretty cool. If I were to knit that, I would probably lengthen the body. It's cropped, and I just find I'll probably knit a more narrow fitted sweater, but I would lengthen the body compared to the pattern. So let me know what you think about this year's Rhinebeck sweater. There are other people who design sweaters that are in or for Rhinebeck, and you don't have to knit that. There are people who knit a certain color with their friends for Rhinebeck. There are people who all knit the same pattern for Rhinebeck. Like I said, not going, so I don't really have a specific plan. I like to wear a farm yarn to some of these, and I would love to finish some of these sweaters, especially if I bought the yarn at like Fiber Festival of New England, which is November. So I feel pretty good that I could get most of the way through what I have going on or planned. But let me know what you think about framed or just generally knitting a sweater, either with a group or for a group, and how things are going for you. It was good to catch up with you, and I hope to be back again in a couple of weeks. I'm heading out of town to visit my mom in a week from now. That's just for three nights. And there's a chance I'll get some knitting done there. I have to do some driving and get on a boat. She lives on Martha's Vineyard, which is an island off the coast of Massachusetts. And a friend and I are going to stay there for a few nights and visit. So that should be a lot of fun. And in the blink of an eye, school will be starting. So this production, my output is definitely going to drop. But I'm very happy with my summer knits so far. I will talk to you again soon. Take care, say hi, and I'll see you again.